T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're listening to The Twisted 10, bringing you original and unique host-created top 10 lists, recorded live in world-famous Cocoa Beach, Florida, with hosts Tach Van Sickle, Adam Poston, Jay Alvarez, and me, Andrea Joy.
Oh, yeah. What, you're already over it?
I'm over it.
You're already over it?
I'm over it.
I loved it.
Oh, thank you.
You're biased.
It was adorable.
You don't have a choice.
Even Ollie's upset. Listen to him.
Welcome to another episode of The Twisted 10. I am Adam. I'm one of your regular hosts. However, this week we don't have Skype up, but I'm not your host, Tach.
Oh, it must be me. Oh, it's not me. No, I'm Tach, and I'm not your host. Tonight, I'm just a participant.
Sitting back over on the lady chase with a good hip now.
It's not all the way good yet.
Oh, almost
Mostly good, though.
All right.
I can walk, so that's good.
Most
Hi, I'm Andrea Joy.
Most importantly, can you wobble?
No,
Okay.
not anymore. I'm too old.
Are you our host tonight?
Yes, I'm doing the top 10 reasons I think flat earthers are ridiculous.
All right. And
No,
our
I'm not your host tonight.
Okay. And our other host?
I'm Jay Alvarez. I don't have a list, so I really hope I'm not the host.
There's some strange other bearded dude in the studio with us tonight.
Oh, that's
though.
a baby beard.
Everyone has beards.
Even you, babe.
Adam, is she starting to call you her beard now? Is that-
Yes.
I always had this dream. I wanted to just start like a social group of men, and we're all bearded, and we're just called the Beards. And what we would do is go around teaching lesser men how to chop wood and change a tire, and then attend family functions with closeted lesbians.
But do we do it while snapping our fingers?
Wearing
and
leather?
show
No, that's the
tunes?
Puerto Rican Fight Club.
Yeah,
okay.
that's West
Keep
Side
getting those
Story.
confused.
Or Grease.
That's why Puerto Rican boxers have a hard time. It's hard to snap your fingers through those gloves.
Oh, that was your first dad joke of the night.
Yep. Hi, I'm dead. These are my jokes.
I think every dad joke should also get a bell, but prep for that, Tach.
We
Get
should
ready for
have
Well, maybe
different
me and
bells.
Jay will share the bell today.
it. All right. I like you.
Jay, do you want the bell tonight? Do you want to use the bell?
Oh, don't give me that power. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I will take that bell. You know, we have a guy sitting, a random dude sitting all over here.
You guys keep rambling. I was just going to let you go until
That's cool.
the
So,
silence.
who are you,
held us.
and who's your daddy, and what does he do?
For the record, I did not let him in this time.
Okay.
I'm Baby Beard Johnson. I'm from the...
Yes.
No,
I smell bacon. Anybody else smell bacon?
I love bacon.
Bacon smells good. Bacon.
It's like
Bacon
the
and
worst
anything
connotation of my nickname.
Sorry, go ahead.
I want to do 7 minutes in heaven with bacon.
Oh, it's a good night for you to be over here.
Good episode for you to be
My
on.
reputation has preceded me.
Baby, I ain't even gonna need the whole 7.
I'll finish it in 30 seconds.
One of Jacob's pickup lines, though, is, "Do you want to come back and eat bacon on my boat?"
Yeah.
God damn it, yes.
Everyone would. Nobody
you can say
would
anything
say no.
back on my boat, and it's like a 90% chance of working out.
Yep,
every
that's
time.
true.
No, but you could say anything about eating bacon, and it's about the same thing.
So when they come together, it's just a magical moment.
Yes, it's
The
like, yes.
universe colliding.
Yeah, try it.
Can we do an official announcement?
Yeah,
of who
so
this is?
yes, of course. Joining us from the Burn It Down Studios is Jacob. Do you want to use your last name too, or do you not want to?
I mean, I don't really care.
Jacob Bacon.
Jacob Bennett, also known as Bacon from the Burn It Down Studios. He's their
All right.
fourth member, sort of fifth, sort of
Intern slash
intern.
stuntman slash co-host, and one of them's feeling lazy.
As long as they don't put Fifth Beatle on the business card, you're gonna be fine.
Does
No.
that just make you their slave?
Whoa.
Essentially, that's why I try to put all the names like before it, because by the time you're done thinking of all the names I've listed off, you forget the fact that I'm just an indentured servant for the podcast.
Yo, that's why he's here. We're actually supposed to have the Burn It Down crew tonight. They just sent him in their stead.
Well,
how much
they know
do
when
they
to send the
pay
looks.
Well done. Yeah. You're gonna do well here.
The Burn It Down podcast, for those who haven't heard it before, is another friendly podcast that's close to us here physically, geographically wise, but they're also part of the podcast Mafia. Find them on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, any of the places you find our show, you're going to be able to find the Burn It Down cast. And we do as much as we can to help those guys. They have done a few events up in Port Orange and Ormond Beach for Tomoka Brewery. Ormond? And yeah, we love them. They've been over here. If you've heard Living Podcariously, they've sat in on a few of those with us as well. And just a bunch of fucking great guys. Unless you're going to bash them. Then we'll be on, it's your list tonight, so we'll be on board with you with whatever you say.
That would have been a lot better list. Like top 10 reasons why Burn It Down blows. Love you guys.
And how much do they pay you there? Because I'll double that.
They sing him in Dabs. They pay him in Dabs K Ja Rule songs.
Oh.
Yeah, that's true. And hugs.
He gives like
the sweatiest, sweetest hugs.
Nice. So for the listeners who are new to us tonight, for the Twisted 10, especially people who are coming to us from the Burn It Down cast who maybe haven't heard it before.
Can I do it?
You're going to take it? Every time I've thrown you this ball,
I know. And
I
I don't practice. And once again, this is unrehearsed. Here we go. This is your first time listening to Twisted 10. And what we do here is somebody comes on board. Tonight we have Mr. Bacon. And he's brought a unique original top 10 list. And what we do with that list is we take that list, we put it on a stick, along with, all mine are food-based, along with a graham cracker and a little piece of a candy bar, some chocolate, and a marshmallow. And then we stick it over a fire.
All together at once?
All together at once.
Ooh.
And then we let it roast a little bit. I like to catch mine on fire and then blow it out.
S'mores would be better with bacon.
All right.
Candied bacon.
That would be so good.
So then we, I don't know. And
Got away from him already.
Yeah, you guys are distracted.
I cannot wait till we have
Bacon on
So we
s'mores?
discuss the top 10 list and we break it down and we
There you go.
and some stuff.
Yes, it's
I
just
lost
basically
it. You guys can't interrupt me.
a unique
It's
top
not
10
an
list.
erection. You can't lose it.
I'm just wondering why the graham
Little does he
crackers are on
know.
your stick. You don't put the graham crackers in the fire.
No.
Yeah.
Tag.
That's
long
where you
time.
messed up.
You know how long it's been since I've been like camping?
I'm sorry. What are s'mores? This is the whitest thing I've ever heard of.
Really?
Really?
You
Seriously?
take a
There's no way.
marshmallow and you toast it
I
over a
come from-
fire.
look,
Take a
Latino.
Oh,
graham
yeah, that's
cracker
right.
and then you put the toasted marshmallow on there with a piece of chocolate and another graham cracker, and that marshmallow that's toasted melts that chocolate, so you have a big gooey.
So it's
graham
not just a
cracker
Pop
chocolate.
Tart.
It's a graham cracker sandwich.
It's
That is literally the whitest thing I think I've ever heard you say.
it's a camping dessert.
It's a
Latinos-
camping thing,
yeah.
which is also one of the widest
What do
things
you
that you
eat?
can do.
What do you eat when you camp? for dessert?
Latinos don't have camping. We have poverty.
Domino's pizza for me.
You can't order Domino's when you're
You don't.
camping.
You don't camp where I camp.
That's no fun. The
Camping
fun's
is what
cooking on the
happens
fire.
when camping is what happens when you can't pay the bills, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you have like no Wi-Fi. It's fucking nuts.
What? Where
When you go camping,
I get into this with them on Burn It Down all
The
the time because
Holiday
they're
Inn
not
Express
outdoors
has
people.
Wi-Fi.
I'm not outdoorsy at all.
No, I'm not. I'm not either.
Tech, the Holiday Inn
outdoors is where
Express
the
has
animals
Wi-Fi.
live.
Oh, thank
That's the
God.
best part.
Andrea owns a 38-foot fifth wheel. All right, it needs a little bit of repairs. The inside needs flooring and walls. Other than that, it's good. Mechanically,
floors with
Just
walls.
floors and walls.
no,
It's a-
not exterior.
No, but the
Hang on.
ceiling's okay.
Not exterior.
I would
It's
probably
got
have
the.
to pay someone to get rid of it for me.
It's got a good frame. Everything's done
really?
inside. It just needs to be done well. That's all. It needs to be maintained a little bit, and that would be my style of roughing it. Taking an
I
air-conditioned,
can't do
generated vehicle out into the woods.
No, I used to like do 2-week backpacking trips up in the mountains in the Carolinas. They just drop you off and
Hippie.
disappear for weeks at a time.
I was born in Boone.
Excuse me.
I know those fields up there. That's my stomping ground.
A lot of white guys carrying tiki torches where you're from.
You'd be surprised. It's really a mixed ethnicity up there. It's just ridiculously diverse. No, I'm kidding. Yes, that's perfectly describing
exactly how it goes.
Can we just comment on how beautiful it is that they had to use Polynesian tools to support white supremacy?
It's a good point. I didn't think about that. All right, so this is the part in the show, Jacob. You've listened to the show before, right? You've heard Twisted 10 and how we do it. All right, so
Yeah, I went back and listened to a couple episodes before I came on.
we go 10 through 6, and then we take a break, and then we come back and do 5 through 1, and then we discuss a little bit, whatever, at the end of the show. But this is the point in the show where basically Tach tosses you a set of proverbial keys,
Metaphorical keys.
metaphorical
right here.
keys, to drive this car. So, Tach, take it away,
You
buddy.
ready?
I'm ready.
You have to catch it.
I'm ready.
Ready?
Mhm.
Here it comes.
Heisman.
He caught it, and Heisman did.
Oh.
So you didn't catch it.
Yeah, I did.
No,
I
he
caught it.
caught it
Heisman
and
and then
Heisman.
booked it.
Yeah, Heisman Trophy.
Look,
What's-
No, I
It's
get
a
it.
sports reference.
I get
Zach.
the reference
Oh,
though. I get it.
Yay,
Look,
sports.
I climbed around
Yay,
the mountains. I
sports.
didn't play team sports, right?
I'm not a sports guy or an outdoorsy guy.
I haven't told them anything about your list, so nothing at all. So this
No,
is
we
a
know
complete
nothing.
surprise. I know that these two are going to love it. Andrea she'll appreciate it, I know, but I know that these two are going to love
So
it.
I'm
should
a blank
I start
slate.
playing
I'm
a
your
game?
canvas. Draw me like one of your French girls.
Let me start playing a game then. He already said I won't like it.
So Jake, no,
So,
I never said that, but all right, Jacob, this is
I
yours.
decided because some of your shows are kind of silly willy. Some of them are a lot more like into the research. Like Dan Cummins was it was a fun show. I love Dan Cummins. It was also more of a serious tone.
Yep.
I tried to go like somewhere in the middle. Some of the things I'm going to talk about is just like holy shit.
Well, so let's
Some of the
rate
things just
that.
laugh about.
So Dan Cummins is a good example of a very well researched show. What's an
Yes.
example in your head of just a willy nilly show?
Scott sucking dicks for 12 mil.
It was 13 million.
Oh, he bumped it up.
Bingo! Fucking nailed it.
Oh, Scott,
You got a wide spectrum. I'm gonna try to fall somewhere between Wild West and dick sucking.
Okay.
It's a lot of ground there in the middle.
So Wild West
Wide
dick
open.
sucking. Got it.
So
A lot of dick sucking in the Wild West, oddly enough. I can't quit
bet
you.
That's true.
I've seen Westworld. That's
A
pretty
lot
close.
of gumming, I believe, would probably be more accurate. 'Cause teeth weren't so great back then. But so I'm bringing you the top 10 list of military fuck ups.
Yes! Yes! We have fornicated the canine. We have fornicated the canine.
Specifically tailored to the U.S. military, and I'm staying away from things because argument could be made that like the Vietnam War, the Iraq War,
Sure.
the entire thing was one giant fuck up. But I'm staying away from stuff like that, staying away from conspiracy theories, just strictly like documented. It was so bad the U.S. had to be like, yeah,
Bravo,
that fucked up.
Foxtrot. I gotcha.
Yep.
It should be a good time. So, you guys ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
So, number 10, I like to call this one
Number 10.
Yes.
Operation Tootsie Drop.
He's not doing it.
Tootsie Drop. Doing what?
Giving us time to
Oh,
share
yeah, so
things.
the
I
only
gotta
thing
do
that
it.
we
Yeah, sorry. I
each
gotta
time you
give
say your
time to do
number-
your
I thought
thing.
you
Yeah.
listened to shows.
No, he said he didn't.
I don't know.
Oh,
Our
that's
last
right.
several shows,
I
we didn't
did.
really have a whole lot of time in between them.
I allegedly partake in things while I'm listening to said shows, so I missed bits and pieces here.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, so I actually I didn't know about this until I started doing research, and I had to really like dig into this one in particular because I thought 100% it was made up. No possible way this really happened.
Operation Tootsie Drop, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah. That's my own made up name. There is no real
Oh, okay.
thing
All right.
about
Hey,
this.
do we win something if you actually mention a story that was one of us?
Sure.
Uh-oh.
There's a good chance here.
Jay just went back through his military history in his head. He's like, no. He shouldn't
Oh,
know
no.
about that.
No, I got some fun stories.
So this one, what happened, basically it's December 1950, the Korean War, and our troops are in the Korean Peninsula, obviously fighting, and they're surrounded by 120,000 Chinese troops in what they call the Chosin Reservoir.
Ooh.
It's
Because that's the one we
frigid out
chose.
there. Yeah. It's absolutely just like nut-numbing frigid down there. Like during the day, highs of -5, -10.
Oh, my
Lows
God.
could drop down to -40, -50.
That's like Antarctica
Like-
style weather right there.
insanely cold. And for anybody that was in the military knows that you use call signs or code names to call in things so the enemy doesn't know
Sure.
what it is. You're supposed to. We don't really do it because whatever. But so they're in this chosen reservoir. They don't really have. They're running out of supplies, running out of ammo, and they're trying to figure out what to do because they're literally surrounded. There's like 2,000 of these dudes surrounded by 120,000 Chinese troops.
Jesus.
So one night the guy's on the radio and he's got to call in more ammo for their 60 millimeter mortar rounds. The code name for the 60 millimeter mortar round is Tootsie Roll.
Let me get that
Sure.
Tootsie Roll.
So they're stuck. They're trying to figure out. The radio man gets on and says, "Hey, like I need some more Tootsie Rolls. We're running out. Somebody help me out." Problem with code names is not everybody gets the memo.
Oh, no.
Some poor private back in the rear just gets a message that says, "Hey, these boys need Tootsie Rolls." So they don't hear anything back for the rest of the night. The next, so this is why I really had to look this up because I didn't believe it either. The next morning, crates of Tootsie Rolls are being airdropped onto the Allied troops in Korea. And it actually ended up being a benefit to them because it's so cold, you can't really heat anything up, you can't do anything. But the Tootsie Rolls, because they're so small and they're made of chocolate, body heat within 15 to 20 minutes can melt it enough for it to be edible. And that sugar and the energy from the candies is actually what sustained them through the long months of trying to first being under siege and then eventually breaking the lines and escaping from
blessing
the
in
chosen
disguise.
reservoir.
We fucked up on purpose. I just wish that those would have been airdropped with like Wilford Brimley on top. Like, we're gonna kill the Chinese with the diabetes.
Yes.
Yeah, they said they found you could easily follow the trail from where the Americans had escaped by literally following the Tootsie Roll wrappers, lining the trail out. And I didn't believe it. I ended up having to go through the National Museum for the Marine Corps, like their archives, and finding actual documentation of this happening because it sounds 100%. It's like one of those Christmas stories that you see like on PBS or something.
Yeah.
You know whose this sounds made up to? People who didn't serve. Because people who served them like,
They would do some dumb shit like this.
Well, let's actually, that's a good
100%.
point. Well, we haven't talked about this a whole lot, but I know that Tach and Jay are veterans. Tach was 8 years in the Navy. Jay did 8 years in the Army.
4 years in the Army.
4 years in the Army. I've done government contracting. I'm not a vet by any stretch of the imagination, but I've been in Iraq for 2 years and a couple other overseas places for extended amounts. And Andrea doesn't have any veteran experience either. Are you, Jacob? Are you a veteran?
Yeah, I did 7 years in the Army, in the infantry, 2 tours in Afghanistan, got to travel all over the place. So digging into this list for me, anybody that was in the military probably already has a disenfranchised look on how the military is run in our leadership.
Yep.
But this list like really just sealed the deal for me.
I like it.
'Cause some of this is just ridiculous.
Yeah, but here's what confuses me about this first one is that some guy got this memo or was told to bring, the Tootsie Rolls.
Yeah.
So and they sent crates on planes, which means this involved multiple people.
Logistically,
Did nobody along
yeah,
the chain of
exactly.
command
Yeah.
go question this?
No.
Not that
are
I
you
could
sure?
Because the boots on the ground needed Tootsie Rolls and they're not to be questioned.
Yeah, that's kind of the mentality.
It's like, are you sure this is what they wanted? Like, that's what it said.
And it's to the point now that when they do reunions, like Chosen Reservoir reunions every year, the Tootsie Roll company sends boxes to the reunion.
Oh my God.
For all of the veterans to enjoy while they're
Andrea.
swapping stories.
Tootsie Roll flavor.
Hey, remember that box we got of the vanilla ones? Oh, fuck
It was
those.
the worst ever.
There were vanilla Tootsie Rolls?
Yeah, if
Unfortunately.
you've never gotten a little Tootsie Rolls in Halloween, they got the blue is the vanilla, then they have orange flavored, then they have grape flavored, and then they have the chocolate ones. See, if you ever trick-or-treated in the poor neighborhoods, that's what you got.
See, I thought everything that wasn't chocolate Tootsie Roll was called Laffy Taffy. If it was different color, you've got a different...
No,
It
Laffy
says
Taffy is
Tootsie
great.
Roll on
Yeah,
it.
that's Tootsie
Yeah, I've
Roll.
never
yeah.
had.
There's
I've only
vanilla.
had
They
chocolate.
got banana flavor. Oh, banana's another. Banana's what...
Banana flavored any candy is gross.
Yeah,
Yeah.
vanilla is what you
What?
give to people you're just indifferent towards. Banana's the one you give to people you just actively do not like.
Yeah.
Baked
Okay.
I like
bananas.
banana Laffy Taffy. That shit's good.
We're talking Tootsie Rolls. Yeah, no, banana Laffy Taffy is actually quite good. Oddly enough. Runts also.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Gotta
that.
Yes,
disagree.
love the runts.
All right,
Sorry.
so moving on, we've got number 9.
Nueve. Or Niner.
Are you calling me from a walkie-talkie?
All right, so this one actually has an operational name. It's called Operation Cottage.
Oh, okay.
Very fancy. And this takes place back during the Civil War, or not Civil War, my bad, during World War II. A lot of people like to say that, well, the U.S., that no one's ever invaded U.S. soil. Not necessarily true. Back in 1942, the Japanese came in and actually invaded the islands of Attu and Kiska. It's part of the Aleutian Island chain. It's part of the Alaskan territory. So technically, the Japanese did invade U.S. soil.
Well, also Pearl Harbor.
Yes, I was going to say that
Well,
too.
like an invasion of U.S. soil, not just like an attack on it.
Oh, like troops on the ground.
Yeah, they
Oh,
came
yeah,
in
yeah.
and invaded with like 8,000 troops.
Damn.
And came in and invaded both these islands.
I'm so bad with history. I never
So-
knew about this.
Yeah.
And it took us about a year before we were like, we should probably do something about that. So in May of 1943, we mounted a big offensive to take back the island of Attu. We went in there with 16,000 troops and just got our asses handed to us.
Really? Versus 8,000 Japanese? I almost said
We
Japs. That'd have been
eventually overcame, but only after losing a quarter of our troops. We lost 4,000 troops trying to take back this one island.
So Americans not so good against the Asian people. Huh?
No. Now,
We
in
learned
our
this in
defense,
Vietnam also.
we did wipe out almost half of the Japanese troops, and the rest they all pulled out and said, screw that. We're not giving up any more lives. But they did end up doing a last ditch effort death charge and they ended up killing, like most people, they only took 28 POWs because everyone that didn't escape decided they were just going to fight until they died.
Damn.
Yeah.
American
So
way.
we take that one, and there's still the sister island, Kiska. It takes us about 3 months to decide, okay, well, now we're going to take over this one. But because of the large amount of casualties we took at the previous island, we sent in 34,000 troops this time.
Oh, that'll make it better.
And before we went in there, we just bombed the piss out of this island. We were sinking all kinds of Japanese ships. So eventually on August 15th, we ended up landing on the island. The problem is the visibility was so poor. A fog rolled in, big storm rolled in. Nobody could see anything. Nobody knew where anybody was. And they ended up just camping out on the beachhead for that night. Now, over that night, they hear rumors of Japanese sniper fire, people taking casualties. Nobody really knows what's going on, though. It takes them 3 days to secure this island. And by the time it's secured, they only took 313 casualties, about 150 actual deaths.
I mean, every death is bad, but that's not that bad considering.
Out of, 34,000 troops, you only had 300 casualties. It doesn't seem that bad. Until you realize that 3 weeks prior to our invasion of the island in Kiska, the Japanese said, fuck you, and they left.
What
we
was
invaded an unoccupied island.
And still lost.
and took casualties.
Wait, what?
We took casualties.
We lost 28 people
Friendly fire?
from friendly fire because the weather was so bad and they landed on separate parts of the island. They ended up shooting each other in the night. The gunfire they were hearing overnight
Was
were
themselves.
friendly fire that's
So
shooting at
this
each
is
other.
a preamble to the Gulf War, because didn't we lose like a lot from friendly fire in Gulf War as well?
We've lost a
Not
lot
a lot,
more than
but
they'll ever report.
We
to
lose a
friendly
lot
fire.
to friendly
Yeah.
fire. Yeah.
Even in the modern wars that we're fighting, it happens a
I heard
lot.
that, well, not a lot. I thought there was like 20, 30 casualties from the Gulf War that was all from friendly fire. One of them, I think, was including getting run over by a tank, I think.
That's
Oh,
got
an
to
accident,
be a
of course,
miserable
but-
way to go. Yeah, and then there was a stray mine in one of the bays of the island, and one of the big ships that had come over there with it accidentally hit the mine, killed 71 people.
Oh,
So all in all,
crazy.
they
not
lost 150 people taking over an abandoned island. It took them 3 days to do it.
How do you...
oh.
This kind of reminded me of, like, did you guys see Hacksaw Ridge?
Yeah.
I'm
Nope.
guessing you two saw.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, man. It's on HBO now. You should check it out.
That's a plug.
Kind of
though.
reminded me of that a little bit. Especially with all the smoke and everything they couldn't see. And
Yeah, nobody really knew what was happening. and
yeah, it's kind of cool.
I can't imagine being the guy that, was responsible for all that. You realize 3 days
Yeah,
later
No
that
shit.
we've now lost all these people for
At what point?
no reason.
At what point did someone say, "Hey, what are you shooting at?" Well, they're shooting that way. Well, who are you shooting at? I don't know. Well, keep it up.
What I don't understand is how they ended up escaping without nobody noticing. Like, because weeks went by between attacking both islands, and up until 3 days prior to the invasion, like we were doing spy plane runs to see if anybody was still there.
Right.
Well, if you
Nobody called it off.
if you've been to Afghanistan, if you've ever taken part in any AAR, you'll know that Camo's always good, S2's always bad.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
bad S2. We got bad S2, Sergeant. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry,
Pretty
Top.
sure if I'd been the highest ranking officer during this, the story would not have gotten out at all.
yeah, no.
And I would just report
listen,
it's all
listen.
clear. And we're
None
good
of
to
this
go.
ever happened. This was a training exercise.
We cleared it.
However, that might be the case too, Tach, because that's been 70 years since that's happened. Declassification of documents takes about that long.
Yeah, a lot of the things that I was researching, a lot of it came from things that nobody knew what happened at the time because it was classified until 20, 30 years after the incident.
Yep.
And then by then, everybody involved either dead
Nobody
or
cared.
Nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly like the. Well, of course, I hope I don't want to steal thunder. I'll wait till you're done. I've got something to compare that to at the end, but I don't know if it's something that you're going to talk about.
It might be. I don't know. All right, so we're gonna move on from there to our number 8.
Number 8.
Number 8.
This one is the Mars Bluff nuke loss, or as I like to call it, that one time we almost nuked South Carolina.
I think I know this one.
Yeah, so back in 1958, during the Cold War, things were heating up between us and the Soviets.
Yep.
And we were planning testing runs on our Mark 6 nuclear bombs. So these planes from Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, Georgia, were supposed to take off with these bombs, fly over to England, and test the guidance systems and test everything like that. But the bombs were still armed. They just didn't have their fusion cores in them. They had taken them out and stored them separate. but they had it all together just in case war broke out. They could be quickly averted and go attack an objective if need be. Well, there was one particular Air Force B-47 Stratosphere. I guess we're cutting it a little loose on the plane. And not long after takeoff, right over Mars Bluff, South Carolina, the captain reports there's a error light coming up on his dashboard. He needs the chief engineer, bombardier guy. He'll come up here and look at it. We've got a problem.
Oh, shit. I see where this is going.
So, and it sounds straight out of a cartoon. The bombardier, as he's reaching up to pull himself upright to walk to the front of the plane, pulls the emergency fucking release pin.
What?
Hey, we probably should have put that there.
Like, I can't imagine like what went through this guy's mind as soon as he like pulls that. It just looks like he's holding the emergency release pin.
So
in
they
his
put
hand.
they put the emergency
And it doesn't
release.
fall until you realize it.
They put the emergency release right next to the oh shit handle.
I don't understand why. While researching a lot of these things, there's a lot of mechanical issues that really could have been avoided if someone just wasn't an idiot when they were putting it together. They shouldn't make it that easy for someone just like reaching up to pull themselves upright to pull out an emergency release pin on a nuclear bomb.
What I love, because I was stationed at Fort Stewart and Hunter Army Airfield is just attached to it, so I just can picture him just some idiot pulling the pin like, anybody know what this does? I was this far.
And it's like it makes it worse. Like this guy's the bombardier. His entire job is the bomb and the bomb systems, the payload. Like this is his sole purpose to be on the plane. You'd think he'd know where to not put his hands.
I'm just here to make sure things go boom.
So what happened? Was the payload innocuous, basically, or
it had its standard high explosive load in it. It's just the fusion core had been pulled out, so it wouldn't go nuclear if it dropped. And the weight of the bomb when it dropped and hit the payload doors popped the doors open. So they're just gliding over Mars Bluff, South Carolina. Nuclear bomb drops.
Oh my god!
It ends up landing up in the middle of a farm owned by the Gregg family in South Carolina. It hits and the thing just blows. There's a crater there now. It still exists. It's 70 feet wide and 35 feet deep.
That's just from kinetic energy?
That's just
Not
TNT?
like,
That's just from the high explosive load, just the regular bomb load that was in it that they used to
'cause
set
it
off the
wasn't
chain
orange
reaction.
or anything, yeah.
And
god damn.
thankfully, the daughters of the family were playing nearby, but only got minor injuries. All in all, there's about 6 members of the family that were around. Only had about, I think, the minor cuts and bruises, stuff like that. Nobody got seriously hurt. I can't, like, how much worse could that have been?
Well, I don't know that particular
shit.
area of South Carolina, but you got to imagine the fallout alone. I mean, that's going to be bad, but the blast radius is going to be, depending on the size of the bomb, miles and miles.
Yeah, it said these bombs carried anywhere from 1 to 5 kiloton warheads.
I just wanted to be that South Carolina farmer sitting there looking up at the sky. Looks like rain today. I reckon you're right.
Yeah, it absolutely like wrecked
what's that?
all of his farm buildings and everything. They end up
I'm
suing.
sure you get a
the Air
nice
Force.
check, so.
You'd think that.
No?
What check? No, we disavow all knowledge.
They did get paid because it's kind of hard to deny dropping a bomb in someone's backyard.
It was a weather balloon. That's right.
Yeah, that's the classic excuse. They should have gone with the weather balloon. So they ended up suing the Air Force and they won $54,000.
What year?
Whoa.
Hey, what the?
In
Spender.
1958, which you think, oh man, that'll be a lot now. Not.
$100,000 now?
It's $450,000 today for them accidentally dropping a nuclear bomb in your yard.
yeah.
$450 is just not enough for me.
No.
Yeah. No.
Like, I'm trying to set me up like at a mansion in the Caribbean. Like you need to hook me up.
Well,
you nuke my entire.
You know,
town.
it's a great country, and I am a patriot. I don't want to take all the money away from the boys from the boys on the ground.
I just need to get a new tractor now because you blowed up my tractor.
Yeah. I had a John Deere. I thought you had to shut up, Earl. Yeah, it was John Deere, top of the line too.
That was international. You shut up.
He somehow had a whole brand new line he had just bought the week prior. All new farm equipment.
Yes.
Didn't your granddaddy give you that international?
Shut up! I got the receipts. Where are the receipts? It blowed up with it.
All right, so moving on to number 7.
Skippy.
Seven.
This one is a little bit older, stems back to the Civil War, and didn't really cause as much loss of life or money, things like that, as the other ones, but it's just stupid. And it did have a big impact on the Confederate Army. There's no reason for it whatsoever.
You gotta love this stuff.
And it was the friendly fire kill of General Stonewall Jackson.
Who has a submarine named after him? Just saying.
Which was also shot down by another Wolf class.
Like I'm saying I would never name anything Stonewall Jackson. They have a track record of friendly fire.
That's like, well, shit. What was that one movie? Was it Elysium? No, it was this movie. There was a movie where Tom Cruise was like flying this thing, and on the cockpit he had a bobblehead of the Big Bopper.
Who, Sully?
Huh?
Sully?
I can't remember the
Tom
name.
Cruise?
Of the
Or Tom
Cruise.
Hanks?
No,
Oh,
it was
Tom
Tom
Cruise.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was in like this dystopian future, and he was like scouting the Earth, and he was flying this like futuristic plane. And
yes.
and
He was
it-
a robot, right? Where he every like 12
it was like
miles
a clone or a
whatever?
robot or whatever. Yeah,
Oh, I don't know.
and he had a Big Bopper bobblehead in the cockpit. I'm like, we all know Big Bopper died in a plane crash, right? Like, he's like the
Morgan
worst.
Freeman's got the dreads. He's the bad guy.
Exactly. Yes, like he's the worst bobblehead you want in the cockpit of anything.
That's a good movie, though. It was good.
So this is in 1863, in the middle of the Civil War, right after the Battle of Chancellorsville. And Stonewall had actually gotten a pretty decisive victory in this battle. He had learned that there is a big group of Union soldiers that were just being lazy, just laying around, not really doing anything. They weren't being protected. So he goes in and just obliterates them, which I'm not defending,
Sure, yeah.
Blah, blah. I'm just giving you facts about
These
what
aren't
happened.
these
that's
aren't
what
taking,
happened.
these aren't taking sides. This is yes.
It's a dangerous time to bring this up.
I bet they had tiki torches too.
But so like he's riding pretty high. And the thing about Stonewall Jackson, the one I would compare him to today would be like General Mattis. Just the amount of like he's idolized by the troops.
Yeah.
Stonewall Jackson was that for his troops. And at this time, he was essentially second in command of the entire Confederate Army. He was a big deal to their campaign.
Kind of a big deal.
A little bit of a big deal.
I'm
So,
kind of a big
They
deal.
get done with this big battle, and him and his little group of cavalry guys are riding back, trying to get through the picket lines. They get up to their picket lines, and a sentry calls out, who goes there? Before they have a chance to respond, a volley lets go.
Oh no!
Shoots everybody. While this is happening, because the accuracy back then, nobody's really dead yet. Like,
Yeah.
you got a couple in the arm, you might just lose the arm, whatever.
Yep.
But in between, after the first volley, Jackson's group's yelling out like it's us. It's Stonewall Jackson and his aides like coming back in. The officer that was running that picket line said, "You know what? It's a Yankee trick. Shoot him again." And they fire a second volley into Stonewall Jackson and his group. He ends up getting shot twice in the left arm, once in the right hand. I can understand the first volley. Sure.
I can't even like they just like who goes here? Pow! No, that's a Goody Mob song.
Yeah.
Who's that peeking in my window? Pow! Nobody now.
You're on edge. It's directly after a battle. You think it's Union cavalry coming in. Scared little guy. He's a farmer. Most of his kids, they're not professional soldiers, especially in the rebel army. He just, but the second one, when they clearly call out who they are, just send somebody to check. You know what I mean? Just to take a sneak peek. They weren't that far away. Like the distances weren't that far. Yeah, it was in the middle of the night, whatever. But for the guy, when the guy called the second one, that's what really got me. That's that's what truly made this a fuck up for me.
Well, y'all, if we're gonna fuck this up, we better fuck it up good.
Yeah, it was bad. And because it was dark and it was confusion, he just like laid there for a while before anybody came to his care, anybody came over to check out to see who they were.
Well, because if he said anything, they'd probably shoot him again.
Yeah, well, I already said my name once. That didn't work out. Well, I'm just gonna stay quiet.
Shit, maybe they don't like me. Maybe they don't like me as much as they thought they did.
That's gotta be a mind fuck.
Was that Major just turned down for a promotion? Is that what happened? What if it is him? Shoot him again.
Didn't make the list. Take him out.
I really hope that the twist on this episode is that all of these people from all of these different like accidents are tied together somehow by a family bloodline or something.
Yeah,
all the dodo.
It's the Gomer Pyle bloodline.
So because of this, they eventually get to him. They put him on a stretcher. They're taking him back behind the lines. They start to get hit with artillery.
Of course. Now they're actually getting shot
So
at.
what do the stretcher guys do? Fuck this shit, I'm out. They drop him and take off. dump him out of the stretcher. Second in command of the Confederate Army. He already shot his ass 3 times on accident. And now it's like a Three Stooges routine at this point.
Yes, it is.
And they drop him on his ass, and he lays there for a while longer, bleeding out, just chugging whiskey like a machine, which they don't know at the time is actually making things worse because it thins your blood, you bleed out faster.
Yep.
Terrible idea if you're bleeding out.
Well, that's
don't
back when
drink
first
whiskey.
aid included laudanum and a saw.
Eventually, they end up getting him back to this farmhouse, and they're taking care of him. They end up having to amputate his left arm. You're not saving it. The right hand seems okay. And after he comes out of his surgery, he seems like he's doing pretty good. He got a little soreness in his chest, which is to be expected. And he just got shot by his own people and then dropped off the stretcher. You're going to have a couple, cuts and bruises. A couple days go by. He starts getting really sick, and then out of nowhere, drops dead. Turns out the soreness, he had contracted pneumonia, which one of the symptoms was soreness in the chest. That they just took it as battlefield injuries and completely ignored all the other symptoms. So after he went through all of that shit, came through the other side healthy, he was going to survive, missing an arm, whatever, he's alive. They miss the signs of pneumonia, and he dies from it.
I love that even
Like 8 days later.
I love that even a general got told, drink water, suck it up, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly what that was. The one time, and we saw how it worked out.
Can you start this episode off with the Gomer Pyle theme song? Sure.
My chest hurts. Sorry, general, drink water, walk it off, huh?
Golly,
That's
Sarge.
pretty much what happened. So, because of a string of idiotic events, they end up losing the second in command of their army.
That sounds
and
like a mix between Naked Gun and...
Oddly enough, the private that shot him, his name was Leslie Nielsen.
Really?
documented.
Get the fuck out of here. I'm gullible as hell, so...
Wow.
Second cousin to Private Pile.
I'm not even going to finish my joke. That stole all my thunder, Jay. Good job. Good job.
All right, so moving on from that, we've got number 6.
Face.
Number
six.
Andrea doesn't say much on this episode.
I just said number
Feeling
6.
no love.
She just said number 6.
So on this one, a lot of people may not like me for this one, but number 6 is Custer's Last Stand.
Yep.
He's viewed for this as being an American hero, an icon of the Old West and what a man should be.
Yeah, no survivors.
He's a fucking idiot. He got his men killed through bad tactics and shitty planning. So,
well, when you're named after a dessert.
yeah. So for those of you that don't know, not a very good one, so you should kind of like...
Yeah. You could throw some cinnamon in it. Call him flan or something.
So in mid 1876, a little bit of backstory on the Little Bighorn. Basically, we're kicking all of the Indians off their land. Native Americans, whatever you guys want to call them. We're kicking them out. So you know what? We want this land. Here's some beads and trinkets, and like we've been doing that for a while. Even at this point, we just said like just get out. We're not giving you anything in return. We've got you this nice land over here that's completely aired, and you
We
can't
made a
grow anything
reservation
on,
for you.
but like
It's
it'll be
waiting for
fun.
you.
Oh, look, we built Mount Rushmore, too, so the white people who put you here can watch over you for eternity.
So as you would expect, that pissed some people off. So there was this Indian chief called Sitting Bull, and he ended up getting together 4 of the biggest Native American tribes in that area at the time. It's the Little Bighorn Valley. It's in South Montana, and they basically said, "We're sick of your shit. We're not moving." So amasses just these giant amount of people, thousands and thousands of warriors that brings and congregates all of them here in the Little Bighorn Valley. They call upon Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer, strong name, to come in with the 7th Cavalry and subdue them because, God forbid those Indians are angry that we're kicking them off their land. We got to go do something about it. So where he really ended up going wrong was, first off, he just had bad information that he trusted. He shouldn't have trusted, but he had bad information.
S2 was bad, sir.
He had Native American scouts doing all of his scouting for him, giving him all his information. And for anybody that was deployed overseas in the Middle East knows, same with like the Afghan and Iraqi army, it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the day, you're an invading force and these are their people. So they come back and tell them they have no more than 700-800 men down in this valley. Just that's it. And most of them, they're old or they're little kids. They're not any real fighters down there. She says, "Oh, okay, cool. We're gonna go in." So the second mistake he makes is breaking his group into 3 parts. Shouldn't have done that. His thought process was, well, there's nobody really there to fight. I'll separate them. That way we can kind of keep them contained until the rest of the cavalry arrives. Everything will be okay. So while they're separated and they're building up these columns, he's wanting to sneak up on them. At this point, he still has no idea that they know he's coming.
Okay.
So as they're moving around, they start to realize they're picking up horse trails up on ridges overlooking their positions. They're seeing little signs that they're being followed. They're being watched. They know they're coming. So Custer decides, well, fuck it. I'm just going to send it. And so they bombard, and with him and 200 of his 18 men end up bum rushing what ended up being 2,500 Indian warriors.
Ooh.
And these guys are pissed.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a foreign invader, essentially. Not essentially, you are a foreign invader. You're coming in, you're taking their land, you're killing them. Because we did it in a nice way whatsoever. I love America, I love my country, but we was some assholes.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I thought you said we never had people come into this country.
Well, yeah, not after we took this bitch over.
Oh, okay.
That's why we got to back up Israel, because we did it first.
That's right.
So
That's gonna get us
he
an
realized it, and then
That's an email from me.
he ends up being completely overwhelmed because he thought that the forces weren't going to be, even when he was there and he was scouting, he still thought that, well, they're going to send a bunch of people off over here. What he didn't realize is the Native American custom is you always protect the village.
Yeah.
So if they even sense an attack's coming on directly onto the village, everybody recedes back. And they hold that spot because that's their families, their livelihood, everything. So he just goes barreling in and decimated. Absolutely decimated. Makes his final heroic last stand on this hill. Honestly, if you look at the area, it's probably strategically the worst possible spot to mount your last stand. But he ends up doing it anyways. And they thought they were good because they had killed all their horses to act as barriers. Well, all they ended up doing, the Americans just aimed higher with their bows and just lobbed them over the horses and just ended up wiping out everybody.
Damn.
And not too long after all this happens, the rest of the 7th Cavalry arrives and ends up, they slaughter everybody. But because of his strategic ineptitude and impatience, he ended up losing half his force.
Yep.
For absolutely no reason. An American hero? I think not.
No, the only reason he's known as an American hero is because he had that last one. Tell my son I was a hero. And so, well, shit, I have to tell him now.
Yeah.
that was it. I mean, the Indians didn't have newspapers, so that's how that worked out.
And there's a whole other show that could be done on American icons that were really pieces of shit.
That's a good show right there, too.
We blow out of proportion a lot of people.
Yeah, Christopher Columbus, don't even get me started on that guy.
Vespucci was number one.
Yeah, the man who discovered America by never landing on America.
And we still do his fuck-ups. For instance, you called them Indians. They were not even fucking Indians.
No.
It's because of him.
Yep.
Fucking moron. Anyway, we're not going to get started on that.
Tax got to look at that. That might have to be your list.
Hold on, we might have to give him shenaniganery tonight. Shit.
Shit.
All right, so that's number 6, right?
That's number 6.
So now it's time to take a break.
All right.
And I'm enjoying this so far, man. Good job.
Really?
Good research.
This is
Good
funny.
research. Yeah.
I was nervous. I didn't want to make it too boring, but I mean, I think
it's good.
I think it's interesting.
No,
stuff.
I'm learning so much from you tonight. This is awesome.
Yeah, I didn't know the names. I knew the names of Little Bighorn, but I didn't know the history behind it. So
Yeah, it's
I'm
one
not
of
a
those
history
things
buff.
where a lot of people, I am a history buff, and I learned so much just from learning, because it's one of those things everybody knows about the Little Bighorn, but nobody really knows
Yep,
about
exactly.
the Little
Yeah.
Bighorn.
Yeah, it's Custer's
one of those
last
things.
ditch effort to not die.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a break, and we will be back.
You're in the mix with DJ Gil Lugo.
Hey, Tech, do you ever have that conversation with your girl about where to eat dinner and it always turns into that back and forth? I don't know, you pick.
Yeah, every once in a while, yeah.
Yeah, well, I've got an answer for you next time that comes up.
Oh, yeah? We're at...
The Salty Fox in Melbourne off of Old Galley Boulevard.
Oh, nice. You know, I've actually been there, and the food was pretty awesome.
Hell yeah, it was. They offer a great selection of paninis, shareable appetizers, soups, and salads, and one of the best desserts I've ever had, the Funky Monkey.
Oh, yeah. My favorite was the vintage options. They got this meal called ramen noodle on crack. You just got to try it out.
Done. That's definitely what I'm getting next time.
Put the fun between your legs at the Salty Fox every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. with the Old Galley Arts District Bike Crawl.
It's a 4-mile bicycle ride down Pineapple Avenue with stops for food and beer all along the route. Be sure to visit the Salty Fox every Sunday for brunch from 11 to 4.
Hey, isn't that the $10 bottomless mimosas brunch?
Sure is. Enjoy your brunch while the Salty Fox's DJ spins throwbacks and top 40 hits.
Salty Fox is located in the downtown Old Galley Art District on Old Galley Boulevard.
Check them out on Facebook at facebook.com/saltyfoxmelbourne or online at thesaltyfox.net.
Hey listeners, be sure to mention you heard about the Salty Fox on our show and you'll get 10% off your meals.
Village Idiot Pub. You locals know about it. You guys from out of town have to check them out.
Village Idiot Pub is now a proud sponsor with Living Podcariously and the Twisted 10 podcasts.
It's more than just about commercials, though. The cast here will be taking our show on the road to Village Idiot to record some episodes as well as hold events. They have over 30 beers on tap, including ciders and Hefeweizen, my favorite, as well as hundreds of bottle choices.
Adam, you forgot my favorite, all the delicious wine. So get your friends together and enjoy the board games, puzzles, and the giant Jenga.
Let the owner, Jason, as well as the rest of the staff there, take excellent care of your beer drinking needs.
Mention either one of our shows to the staff and get 10% off your tab.
Tuesday is open mic, Wednesday is trivia, Thursday is karaoke, Friday and Saturday night are live music.
Visit them at 4 Harrison Street, Suite 103, Cocoa, Florida, or Village Idiot Pub on Facebook. And don't forget, they are a dog-friendly location, so bring your friends, family, and fur babies.
Hey, it's Adam. If you enjoy the hosts or the content of the Twisted 10, be sure to check out our other show. It's called Living Podcariously. While the Twisted 10 may get crass and explicit occasionally, it holds no water to Living Podcariously. We do get a little bit more rough and raw on that show. We have a lot of fun producing it and have had some awesome guests. And as always, thanks for listening.
I saw a shimmering light. My head grew heavy and my sight grew dim. I had to stop for the night. There she
And welcome back to the Twisted 10.
Right.
Yes. Hey, I want to give a quick shout out to Veronica and Sam down at the Salty Fox. We would like to say congratulations on your proposal and acceptance of said proposal. We're very happy for you guys, and we wish we could be there for your engagement party, but we're recording literally tonight when your engagement party is going on.
I could have went to the engagement party.
Oh, that's why everybody kept asking me if I was going to Salty Fox tonight.
Probably.
You didn't even tell me. You knew I would be there instead of here.
I didn't even know anything about it.
He tricked me. He knew
Let me
I
check
wouldn't
my
be
phone
here.
to see if I missed my invitation.
Oh, all right. I mean, you certainly can do that.
I
Yeah, I
didn't know
didn't get an
anything
invitation
about
to that.
it.
Hey, guys, this isn't about you.
Nothing.
This is about them.
Oh, right.
Congratulations.
I would have been
Congratulations.
there. I,
Like, I don't even know him, and I'm offended I wasn't invited.
Yeah.
Sam and Veronica are the two owners of the Salty Fox down in
Very
Melbourne,
nice.
our sponsor, and they're fabulous people. So congratulations again. We wish we could be there. Sorry, we're not.
And I'll do your hair for your wedding, Veronica.
Why not Sam?
Well, she doesn't need her hair in an updo.
Well, that's fair.
I could blow some glitter on it. I mean, but
All right, so we've got a hell of a list. So Jacob, you brought us the top 10 military fuck ups or
Yeah.
disasters
Blue
or
Falcons?
It's a mixture, I guess, of mishaps, disasters, and just general fuck assery.
Nice.
Top 10 times the military was literally the F troop.
Can you do us a favor and recap just the titles of 10 through 6 for us?
Absolutely. So at number 10, we have Operation Tootsie Drop.
I am so inserting the Tootsie Roll song right there.
That sounds like something Uncle Luke would be part of.
Number 9, we've got Operation Cottage. Number 8, the Mars Bluff nuke loss. Also the day that we almost accidentally nuked South Carolina.
Yeah, accidentally in air quotes. Yeah.
What an idiot. Number 7, we had the shooting of Stonewall Jackson by his own troops.
Yep.
And number 6, Little Bighorn, Custer's Last Stand, not an iconic hero.
All right. So that brings us to...
Number 5.
Cinco.
I keep whenever you're not here, Jay. I keep trying to fill in your what do you call it? Count Dracula counting?
Just the count.
the count.
The Sesame Street
And
count.
I never remember where my numbers are in
Or
Spanish.
because
Yeah,
in
it's not
Spanish, the
working
Plaza
for it.
Sésamo count.
What?
Plaza
Plaza
Sésamo.
Sésamo.
Yeah, that's what we call Sesame Street in Spanish.
Plaza Sésamo. Oh,
Come-
place
come
Sesame.
again?
Okay.
El
It's,
coche.
it's here, America, boy.
El
We speak
coche.
English and carry tiki torches.
When I was in Spain, lived in Spain, we had El Coche Fantastico, and that was Knight Rider.
Oh yeah, some of those translations, man, those like translating movie titles have
Did you say
nothing to do with
Coochie
it.
El
Fantastico?
Coche Fantastico.
Oh.
My
that
favorite
coochie.
my favorite was my son's World of Warcraft character name for a long time. It was the I Am Legend in Spanish, which is Soy Leyenda. That was I Am Legend.
Nice.
All right.
Well, at number 5, we have the sinking of the USS Thresher.
Oh,
I don't know
So
anything about this.
go ahead.
this is back in 1963, heart of the Cold War. I mean, the Cuban Missile Crisis was not even a year prior to this time. So we're on edge. There's a lot of shit going on between us and the Soviets. Nobody really knows what's going on, and everyone's terrified of nuclear war. At the time, when it came to submarine warfare, the USS Thresher was a United States submarine. The Soviets had us beat by a long shot. They had about 500 subs. We had no more than 100 at the time. And the thing about these Russian subs is they had the ability to carry 24 intercontinental ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads on them. So one sub by itself had enough firepower to wipe any country completely off the face of the earth.
Sure.
Bad news bears. So the way we countered the sheer number ratio is we started coming out with the most advanced things that we could. So in doing this, we created the new attack subs. The USS Thresher was the first one out. This was at the time the meanest, craziest thing in the ocean. It was the deepest, the fastest, the quietest. It could pick people coming up on their radar from just hundreds of miles farther than anybody ever could before.
Nice.
This thing is absolutely top of the
So
line.
this is my wheelhouse because I was in submarines when I was in the Navy. So continue on. Sorry,
That's right.
I'm
Cat
enjoying
can say
this.
submariner.
Yeah, it just means submariners were in him.
Yeah, I mean, my dad was a submariner. He's the one that actually told me about this originally, and he said the joke they used to always make is 150 men leave, 75 couples come home.
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard them all. I know them all. Where was
Yeah.
he stationed at?
He was on the John Adams, and then he was stationed at Charleston, which is where I ended up being
Yeah,
born. He
yeah.
was on a sub down there, and then got out like right after I was
He
born.
was on an old boomer, I guess.
Yeah, he did. He's gonna kill me when I get this wrong. But
You killed him when you joined the
nuclear
Army and not the
weapons
Navy,
systems.
son.
I tried to join the Navy. They wouldn't let me because I had giant gauges at the time, and said I could get snagged on something on the ship if I got sent to fleet.
He did
But-
what? What'd you say?
He was nuclear weapons navigation or guidance, something or other. I
Like
don't
a
know.
missile technician?
I think he did something with like the navigation with the nuclear missiles.
Probably electronics technicians, probably.
He was
Yeah,
the more
something like
modern
that.
day version of the bombardier door guy that pulled release on the.
Which character on Down Periscope was he?
I would say he's probably sonar.
Thank you for understanding exactly what I was going
I was
for.
raised on Don Vasco.
Trust me, I know all about that too. So no, you electronic technician, I think is more of a sounds like what he was.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. But he was in the 80s.
He dealt with like the guidance systems for missiles and stuff like that.
Yeah, we created this new class of submarine. The USS Thresher was the first one. I mean, top of its line. Everything was perfect on this. Every weld was done by a master welder. Everything was just top of the line. It was the greatest, most dangerous thing in the ocean. It was created specifically to seek and destroy these Russian nuclear submarines. That was its whole purpose in life, was to go blow up Soviets, which I think is pretty badass. But so in April of 1963, the Thresher leaves its dry dock and it goes out to do testing about 200 miles east off the coast of Boston.
Okay.
And so they do their first initial test. They're just doing a trim test, just checking to make sure the wings and everything works, steering, all that stuff works, and they come back and resurface.
Wings. All right, go ahead.
I know, I'm sure they have official names.
It's fine.
What are they called? Fins?
No. Well, it depends on which ones, because you have fairwater planes, and then you have, I don't know much about Thresher. I don't know whether they have bow planes. But there's also stern planes as well. So
Planes or wings?
what? Yeah, like they're like wings.
Yeah.
I like wings better. It's okay.
Wings are cooler. But so they come back up, and then accompanying them is the USS Skylark. It's called a submarine rescue ship, but I mean it's basically a canoe with a phone on it. They can like talk to the submarines. There's not a damn thing they're gonna do if something goes wrong with.
Are
the
you
sub.
guys singing?
That's really all they can do.
All right, we'll send word.
So they come up, they get back word with them and whatnot, and then they go back down to do their deep dive test. So they go down overnight. They've got communications with them. Sometime during the night, they lose communications with the submarine.
Uh-oh.
Early the next morning, because they can still hear like what's going on underneath with the sub and whatnot. They can hear what's going on, and they get a garbled transmission saying basically that they're having issues and they're going to attempt to surface.
Emergency blow. EMBT blow.
Yeah.
What it's called now.
Is what they're going to try. That's the last thing they hear from them.
Uh-oh.
Next, the only sound they hear later is the sub as it's imploding.
Oh, no.
And what people, like, if you've seen down Periscope, they talk about, when a sub implodes, it's like crushing like a tin can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. What generally happens is if there's a weak spot in the hull somewhere, because those holes are rated to take that kind of pressure.
Yeah,
But-
they're made to bend and all that.
Yeah, they're made to do that. But if you have a weak point in a weld, in a seam in the plates or something, the water can come through there with like 80,000 pounds of pressure through a 6-inch opening.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Sounds like my sex night.
and what happens is within milliseconds, it obliterates everything inside the sub. Within
Wow, really?
milliseconds, 80,000 pounds of PSI of water will come in and just destroy everything. Take out all the bulkheads and just turn everything into pulp.
Huh.
Basically turns the whole sub into just like a floating blender. I watched some of these like recreations while I was doing research, and it's some pretty gnarly stuff. It's a terrible way to go.
So wait, hold on. Where can I find these?
No, I'm curious in seeing
Thresher.
that stuff too. But go ahead.
Well, it's computer generated models and stuff like that, but it was intriguing to see. And so they go through this big investigation trying to figure out what happened. So what they ended up finding is there was a pipe in the engine room, about a 6-inch pipe that burst at some point when they were doing their deep dive test. Right around, they were about like 1,800 feet.
Okay, that's classified. Just saying it is.
For that investigation, it probably
It's
is.
so
That may be declassified.
it's so classified. He found it on a Google search.
What I did find in the research is the exact depth that the Thresher is rated to is classified, but they suspect that between 1,300 and like 1,800 feet is when it crushed.
Is it the NTSB that will also cover that type of crash? Because they cover serious automobile, train, and airplane. Would they also cover military underwater vehicles? I mean, would that?
I'm not. You gotta think too.
don't
This was
think
back
so.
in the early '60s. So I'm
NTSB might not have
sure.
even
Yeah, it may
existed.
not even been.
I don't think they had
A thing.
seat belts in cars back then.
That's true.
So
Seatbelt. What are you? scared.
So the water comes barreling into the engine room and ends up shorting all of the fuses in the engine room, which in turn, it's called a scram. It's basically when your nuclear reactor overheats and shuts down. This is what happened in the Thresher. This is what caused them to initially lose power. The batteries in these subs, they don't have enough juice to just surface off of battery power alone. So as what he was saying, like you do the emergency blow, and that's what they do is they shoot CO2 into your ballast tanks, forces all the water out, makes you buoyant, and you launch like a damn cork. If you've ever seen the footage of them like blowing the surface, it's crazy.
Tons of fun to do, by the way.
It's insane. My dad said it was like the craziest roller coaster he's ever been on. Times like
It's
1,000.
fun. It depends on what part of the boat you're on too. You got to be all the way forward on the boat in order to enjoy it. But yeah.
So, like I said, they hear the call, like we're gonna try blowing it. They hear nothing else. It didn't fill. And what they found is what happened is the system that they had on this was an old system, not rated to the same depths as the Thresher was rated, because it was a new sub, it could go deeper than everybody else. So what was happening is when the CO2 was shot, there's a little grate in the hosing or the pipe or whatever that blows the CO2 air through. Somehow that was freezing over, blocking off the CO2, and so none of the ballast tanks were being filled with air.
Right.
So they're just sinking.
Damn.
And the reason that this is one of the biggest fuck ups is because in the investigation, they later learned that only 14% of the welds and the connections on the submarine were actually checked.
Really? So it was a rush job, no QCing or very little QCing?
There was very, very little quality assurance done. There were hundreds of welds and seams that were just never checked. Nobody looked at them. Nobody did anything because there was no quality assurance program in place. And between 1915 and 1963, we actually lost 16 submarines.
Wow, really?
In that span. 16.
Were these made by government or were they government contractors back
Probably
then?
contractors.
Yeah, I'm sure
Just
they
like it
were
still is
contractors.
today. It's still contractors today.
Yeah.
Usually it's an electric boat up in New England area.
But the one good thing that came out of all of this, I'm sure you're familiar with this program, is a program called SubSafe. SubSafe was basically created so something like this will never happen again. SubSafe, what they do is they cover all your pressure systems, all your flooding systems. They deal strictly with that. And in turn, they monitor all of the quality of materials coming in to build these systems, all the materials used in installing them. They go through everything, and they're very meticulous now about what they will allow on these ships. And since SubSafe was instituted, we've only lost one boat in all that time. And I don't remember what the reason it sunk, but it had nothing to do with any of this. But I guess this has been a recurring issue to the point where, like I said, they lost 16 ships in a 40-year span.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, any person that's in submarines, we know about the Thresher. We know the story. We know, and it's ingrained in our brains. And it's a big deal to us if you're in submarines, And we learned a lot from this. So I mean, yeah, we lost a lot of lives and a lot of Eternal Patrol shipmates are out there, on Eternal Patrol, but we learned
Was that
so
an inside,
much.
like,
That's
Navy,
one of the
Navy
things
lingo?
I covered. What it is when a ship retires, it's decommissioned.
Right.
When a ship is lost at sea or something like that, they put it on what's called an internal patrol.
Eternal or internal?
Eternal. So it's in the books as the
Forever.
Eternal Patrol instead of being like decommissioned at so and so.
And all
that's kinda cool.
all the sailors that perished in the accident, they're all on Eternal Patrol.
So they're at work
It's just-
through all eternity.
So there's a lot of things that, like, I post.
It's the U.S.
if you ever
military
check, like-
fucking you one last time.
If you ever look like on Memorial Day, I'll post a lot of stuff, especially submarine stuff. I'll post I think I post something about Thresher one time about these are shipmates on Eternal Patrol and rest your oars, that kind of thing. It means a lot to us submarine guys.
I got to give a shout out to Summer because I'm an infantryman. I'm the grunt. We get the attitude of thinking that we're better than everybody else because honestly we are. But the one job I would never do, honestly, is being a submarine. It takes a special breed of person to go down and do a submarine. Like, it scares the shit out of me, legitimately. Just the idea of even going like a couple hundred feet under the surface in a sub literally scares the shit out of me. It takes a different kind of person. Everyone says we're crazy, but you guys
you're literally
EOD.
climbing into your own coffin.
Potentially.
My cousin Frank was a mariner too, and as much crap as I give him for being in the Navy, because I mean he deserves it. There's a ton of respect out for those guys because that shit is not. I'd rather run straight into a firefight than
send me back to
and I'll trade you.
Send me back to the Korengal Valley. I'm not going in a submarine.
Yeah.
Kiss my ass.
Good on you guys too, because I'm not going to do your job.
This just became a conversation with the three of us.
Also in the 90s,
talk.
in the 90s too, like the Soviets had the Kursk that went down. I don't know if you guys remember that story. And that was the Russians, but still, we still felt like those are our brothers.
Well, you learn a lot from
There's
that too.
a weird camaraderie
Yeah.
even with countries that we have hostilities with.
That was like, and even the U.S. Navy was like, we will help them. It's like, let us down there, but Russia wouldn't let us help. Not me, but
because really the CIA wanted to steal all their secrets, which is why they said no. But
we'll go down there. We'll get them out.
This makes me wonder. So these types of things are what when I'm just daydreaming, I'll think about what's 40, 50, 60 years in the future from now. What are we going to look back on as a society and say, I can't believe we didn't have that program in place, like the QA or the sub safety or whatever the hell that program was.
SubSafe, yeah.
What
it
types
makes perfect sense now.
Of course. What types of programs are we going to have then where we look back and say we're idiots, for not doing something that's so simple back in nowadays in 2017, 18, 19, whatever. That's a rhetorical. I don't want to really answer.
Okay. Well, I was going to compare it to kind of like what I do now. There's things that you learn even like working at huge aerospace companies too. Little accidents happen here and there. You start a new program and it just implements.
Maybe.
Stuff happens still today.
Yeah, it happens all the time. Like, who thought it wouldn't be a good idea to get the prisoners naked and take pictures with them? Jeez. You mean that's not an okay thing to do?
Maybe we're going to look back and say, how could we ever have believed the Earth was really round?
I'm not.
Jay's
Let's move on.
Jay's going to punch me on that. All right.
God damn it.
So we've got number 4.
Cuatro.
Number 4 is the Battle of Shiloh. And the Civil War gave a little bit of love to the Confederate Army earlier, so now we're moving on to some Union dodos just to bring it full circle.
Can with the whole Confederate one, though, can we kind of just say, that was Confederate? That wasn't actually United States Army? Does that give us a little bit? I mean, can we kind of skate by on that one?
7 has like an asterisk on it. You know what I mean? Like, it was an army that operated, I guess. And I'm like, shut the fuck up, it's my list.
Get him. Don't let him get away with that.
What was that?
You didn't see anything. I mean, you didn't hear anything.
So in April of 1862, General Grant has moved his army into Tennessee. And with General Grant is the youngest major general in the Union Army, a real come-upper by the name of General Lew Wallace.
Okay.
I mean, this guy was an up-and-comer. He'd done all the right things. He was a rising star in the Union Army. So at the Battle of Shiloh, when they're getting ready to go to battle with the rebels, Grant tells Wallace, hey, I want you to stay in the rear as reserves. If things get hairy, I'll call you up, and that way they have like an extra group of men to come up and help them. Around 6 a.m. the next day following the start of the battle, Wallace gets the orders, hey, we need your help. Come help. Cool, I got you. He starts marching. Problem is, he's marching in the wrong direction.
Yep.
He is going the wrong way. Gets lost for hours. They're wandering for hours. Stumbles upon an enemy position. Lo and behold, he'd accidentally completed a perfect flanking maneuver and had somehow ended up behind the rebel army. Perfect position to attack. I mean, you stumbled onto anybody that knows battle tactics, flanking maneuvers is one of the biggest things that you do.
Sure.
It's great. It's where you go around the side, come behind. Well, he'd accidentally done this to them. Bravo. He can take credit. People will think that he's a strategic genius. Rising star will go even higher. No. He decides, well, this isn't where Grant told me to go. So let's go back.
Oh,
you fucking putz.
While he's seeing his guys get slaughtered.
No, they just the guys on the other side, he's seeing them fighting. No, this is the wrong position. Let's go back. So about 4 or 5 hours later, they end up in the right position finally. The problem is at that point the battle's moved. Like these battles don't stay in. Like they range all through these fields and mountain ranges throughout the country, and so they've moved. So he decides, well, we're gonna go find him. Finally shows up 13 hours after he was first given the order to move up and help. Shows up with Grant's army. Needless to say, he's pissed. So he ends up taking away his commission, takes away everything, and the guy gets stuck just doing a desk job for the rest of his career. And people have argued, like, well, did he do it on purpose because he was a coward, or was he just that stupid? Which I'm not really sure, because you think like people believe maybe he's just a coward, but he's leading like an entire regiment. So I think he was just stupid.
I think
you're not a coward if you're running up behind the enemy. Like,
yeah.
Well, you are if you turn around and go back.
They're not shooting at you though.
And honor is everything. He wouldn't have intentionally been a coward in front of his regiment,
right?
Because like now today is still the same, but back then like your honor was everything.
I just can't.
I think he was just an idiot.
I just can't believe there wasn't like a number 2 somewhere who said, "Hey, General Stupid! Like, hey, you fucking idiot."
They tried. When they ended up coming up and out, flanking the enemy.
Hey, good job.
All of his advisors like, hey man, like I know this isn't where we're supposed to be, but this is the most advantageous spot we could possibly have on the battlefield. They don't know we're here.
General Grant wants us over there.
So while the Union ended up winning that battle, they took 13,000 casualties.
God, man.
And so now Wallace, who was known as, the rising up and coming star, the next, General Grant, is now the guy that's blamed for causing thousands of extra deaths because he couldn't get his people to where they needed to be in time.
Damn.
And then when he was in a good spot, he was. And that's why there aren't any army bases named after him.
Yeah, you're not going to find anything Wallace base anywhere. He's an idiot.
Yep.
Good Lord.
So that's why military intelligence is an oxymoron.
It really is. And a lot of the research I've done, like intelligence was one of the biggest factors in basically majority of any military fuck up you can think of. Whether back in the day to modern times, it's bad intel.
Yep.
And there's really yet we still rely on the locals for intel, which baffles me.
Yeah.
Because that's never gone wrong. But all right, so I guess we're moving into the top 3 now.
Number 3.
Number 3.
This one made it into the top 3 purely because it's so fucking stupid. I didn't believe it was real. It's like the Tootsie Roll one where I just didn't believe it was real. Unlike the Tootsie Roll one, this one didn't end up good for anybody. I call this one Dunks for Likes. In September 2010, 2 Navy Seahawk helicopters were doing flight instruction over Lake Tahoe. The Seahawk is like the Navy's attack helicopter, I guess, probably the best way to describe it.
I guess
it's comparable like the Army Apache. It's just that shoots the missiles and all.
So just like a little 2-seater,
fancy armament. Yeah, it's a smaller like attack helicopter.
Okay.
And the instructors have got flight students out there. They're training them, and this is actually there's a video of this on YouTube. If you look it up, it's ridiculous to even watch it. So what happens is they're flying over, and then all of a sudden they're doing the Seahawks aren't made to hover low over anything, especially water. Something about the displacement, it messes with the rotors. Mm-hmm. Well, both of these Seahawk helicopters ended up hovering about 70 feet above the water. Both lost control and splashed down into the water.
Oh, no.
Fortunately, I'm not sure how they pulled it off. Even like watching the video, I have no idea how they made this work. They ended up being able to take to the air again. Like they didn't fully submerge. I guess they kept enough essential components out of the water that they ended up coming out and taking back off. The video only shows one of the birds going in, but both of them ended up doing it. So this big investigation happens, obviously, because there's about $1 million worth of damage between the 2 helicopters, and they're trying to figure out what the hell were you doing? Like what could have possibly happened that caused you to do this?
One pilot error is easy to understand, but 2 simultaneous pilot errors is difficult to comprehend.
What were they doing?
Pockets of gas.
They were taking selfies for the squadron Facebook group.
Yes.
They had students in there, and they were trying to show off for the students and get cool shots for their Facebook group.
Oh, shit.
lost some. I guess they weren't paying attention. Something happened. They lost control, and these are $33 million pieces of equipment a piece, and they almost dunked both of them into Lake Tahoe.
Hey, we should probably take care of this military equipment. Yes, but first the selfie.
You know, here in our elaborate studios, Tach, when we take selfies, we might knock over a sound panel, which is all of about $7 worth of material.
Right.
So we don't have a big risk.
You're not
here.
destroying a $30 million piece
Yeah.
of equipment.
No.
And
No.
needless to say, both of the flight instructors, they were done. They lost their
sure.
flight status. And as a career aviator, if you can't fly, you no longer have a career.
Yeah.
Which, honestly,
They
I
became.
don't feel that bad for them.
Yeah.
Like,
They taught ground school after that.
yeah, like you're idiots. You deserve what you got. And the biggest people I feel for was the students they were teaching. They had already gotten their flight wings, but they were training on that particular helicopter. They had to go through and redo the entire 6-month training program.
You know what, though?
And we're behind on everything because their instructors were fucking morons.
You said it wrong. It's not that they had to do it. They got to do it. Because those guys were able to pull those helicopters out of that fucking drink.
Yeah.
They got, you know what?
Oh,
Count
yeah,
your
sure.
fucking
I mean,
I mean,
blessings.
so you got to give a shout out. Like they must have been good pilots, but
guess,
still,
yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're making if
Bad
you were in that
decisions.
situation in the first place, it's because you've made some pretty bad decisions.
Yep.
Hey, hold my phone. Watch this.
Isn't this how?
essentially what
Isn't this
happened.
how Top Gun happened?
Something very similar.
Sending you boys to Top Gun.
Nah, but in Top Gun there was a lot of homoerotic volleyball.
It's
They
the
were
Navy, same
taking.
thing.
They were taking selfies too.
Hey, Tech. You never close your eyes anymore when I
Kiss your lips.
You're dangerous, Maverick. You're dangerous.
Adorable.
That's why I'm called Maverick.
Who would have thought one of those guys would grow up to be Batman?
Yeah, that one made the top 3 just for sheer it makes no sense to me.
Yeah. no.
Just for sheer idiocy. Dunks for Likes had to be top 3.
That was a good title.
I like dunks for legs.
Dunks for Likes.
Good rap title. Yeah, I like that.
So moving right along, we've got number 2.
Number
Dos.
2.
All right, so number 2 is in 1980. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. This is a little bit before my time, but 52 hostages were taken by revolutionaries in Iran.
Oh, yeah.
So when Jimmy Carter was president, it was a big deal.
This is the story that, what's his name, did the movie on, isn't it?
Not Fargo.
Not Fargo?
No, not far. You're talking
No,
Argo.
Argo.
Yeah.
That was Iran. That was Iran.
I think
don't know.
that was a different group of hostages.
All
same
right, I'll hear
country.
your story. I want to see. It might be different. Yeah.
So Jimmy Carter decides that we're going to go in and have a military action to go rescue these 52 hostages. The reason I think it's different, I think the Argo one, there was like 6 hostages or something. I don't
Something
think there was
like
that many.
No, I think you're right. Yeah.
But so he decides to come up with this new plan. And now Delta Force at the time had just been formed. This would be one of their very first missions they'd ever pulled off. For those of you who don't know, Delta Force is like the elite of special operations in the Army. I think they have some MARSOC guys that come in.
Is it like the equivalent of the SEALs?
Delta Force
it's like the
doesn't
next
technically
step down from the SEALs.
They
But
don't technically exist. Yeah. Those are the guys that when they show up at a military checkpoint and the guy at the gate says, I need to see your military IDs. They're like, no, you don't.
Yeah, they Jedi mind trick people. It's,
Damn.
And it's
crazy
not
how that
and it's not
works.
so much that they know you don't. They really are Jedi mind trick. They're magical.
yeah. So they're setting up this big joint operation. The problem is nothing like this had ever really happened before. We'd never had to prepare for a scenario like this before. So we have all these moving parts, people from every branch coming in, Air Force, Marines, Army, Navy, everybody working together to make this happen.
All right.
The problem is because this had never been really done before, and people that are in the military will know that the branches don't always get along very well. It's kind of like when the FBI shows up and steps in on the local PD's investigation.
You're out of your jurisdiction. Sorry.
It's a very similar idea of how that works.
I'm Roscoe P. Coltrane.
None of them want to communicate. So from the very beginning, it was overcomplicated. They had no communication. It was a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
From the get-go. So the plan is to send in 8 helicopters full of Delta Force guys, and they're going to come in, they're going to save everybody. So while they're going in, a big dust storm kicks up
Uh-oh.
while they're flying in. 3 of the helicopters gone. One had mechanical issues, one lost a windshield, and the other one just straight up crashed. They weren't 100% sure what really happened with that one.
Damn.
But so right from the before they even land, almost half of their force gone. They touch down. They still can't see anything. And President Carter had decided that if any less than 6 helicopters, because there's always contingency, you always expect things to go wrong.
Sure.
So they said if any less than 6 made it to the landing site, they were going to abort the mission. Well, there's only 5 left. So they call the abort. It's confirmed. It's like, okay, cool. Like we're getting out of here then. In the confusion, one of the transport helicopters ended up running into the back of a fueling plane, blowing up, instantly killing all 8 crewmen.
I don't mean to laugh at that, but that's sad to see happen.
Yeah, so as they're getting out, it crashes. And so because everyone's confused, everyone's panicked, they all just pile into whatever they can pile in and leave. The problem is nobody was really paying attention. We left the 4 remaining helicopters on the ground in Iran basically as a wrapped gift on the platter.
Oh my God.
What's funny is
This
that
is for you.
while everybody was running under the helicopters, they were all running in like super speed, and the Benny Hill theme song was playing.
That pretty much, yeah. We left them 4 top of the line military troop transport helicopters because just nobody was paying attention, I guess, or whoever's job
But
that
wait,
was.
what happened to the pilots of those helicopters? Did the pilot run into a helicopter and say, "Get me the
I
fuck
guess
out
that's
of
my
here"?
because there's specific crew dedicated to
For
those
each vehicle.
for
did
those
they
birds.
Not, did they not land and be like, "Hey, didn't you fly here?" Oh shit, I flew here.
I can understand 1, but you left 4.
It's like a bunch of drunk people leaving a party.
Yeah, there's at least like 4 or 5 people attached to every helicopter.
Usually you've got a flight medic or a crew chief and a flight medic that run the same role.
Pilot, co-pilot, door
Absolutely.
gunners.
Yeah.
You have, there's a good amount of people just skeleton crew on these things that somehow just left their birds in the
That's
middle of
really
the desert.
I can just see
Bizarre.
that. I can just see that warrant officer standing in front of that disciplinary committee, hearing that. Hey, chief, at what point did you realize that you were not flying a helicopter?
I've heard of guys losing maybe a weapon scope or some night vision
I
goggles.
had a guy lose an AT-4. How do
He's
you
on
lose
the-
a helicopter?
How do you lose 4 giant helicopters? It's the dumbest shit in the world.
Didn't you fly here didn't you fly here in your own helicopter? Well,
Well, no, Johnson's got it. Oh, there's Johnson.
Shit.
Sorry. I thought you were flying.
He called shotgun, Sarge.
but that happened 4 to 4 crews.
It's ridiculous.
Oh my
But in the aftermath of this, SEAL Team 6 was created to do basically because Delta Force does what they do, but they didn't have like a dedicated sea, air, land terrorist.
Right.
Like that was the only thing they did was terrorism,
I was gonna say,
counterterrorism.
SEAL Team 6 blew up that piece of the helicopter that they left. That was very publicized.
during the
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to
the
do.
Bin Laden raid.
Yeah.
You have
that's what you're supposed
That's
to
what
do.
you have an incendiary grenade for. What's this
No,
one
they-
for? Oh,
they-
this is to blow up what we can't take.
They just left them, but because of that, they ended up creating SEAL Team 6, and now we have one of the best counterterrorism units in the world.
Goddamn right.
Yeah, so that one was bad just because it all could have been avoided. Nobody wanted to work together, and they lost lives, millions of dollars in equipment, just because they were in a giant pissing contest.
Yep.
Welcome to the military.
Yeah.
So that brings us to our last and final number 1.
Number
Uno.
Number 1.
Number 1 is the story of the USS William D. Porter. And oh, what a shit show it was.
William D. Porter. I've never heard of this one before.
Yep, there's a reason for it.
It was.
Just like you've never heard of General Wallace before.
Oh, that's true.
This is surface Navy, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a Navy destroyer.
Okay.
Built during the World War II. So this is actually in late 1943.
All right.
When all this takes place and beyond.
Okay.
Porter's first job was to act as an escort for the USS Iowa, which was a battleship that was secretly transporting FDR and the Secretary of State to Egypt to meet with Joseph Stalin and Winston Churchill.
Good Lord. That's a hell of a round table.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So like, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of a big meeting. You don't want to miss that one.
Yeah. They're tasked as one of the escort ships because they got to go through U-boat occupied water, which was most of the Atlantic at this time. Like they were killing us with the U-boats, and their job was to just escort and make sure it didn't get blown up, blah, blah, blah. Well, right out the gate, as they're leaving the harbor, somebody decided that they weren't. Every one of these things on a ship has a job. Everything that happens on one of these ships, I'm assuming, it's somebody's job to handle that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So as they're leaving, they didn't raise their anchor all the way. So their anchor's only raised, like it's out of the water, but it's like swinging off the side of the deck. As they're leaving.
Can't be right. I mean, that's not what you want.
No, not at all. So they were moored next to their sister ship, another destroyer, and the anchor landed on her deck and scraped and just knocked everything, destroyed everything off the deck of her sister ship as she's leaving port. Now, because they have this super secret fancy escort mission, they don't have time to stop. So the captain's reporter basically just like throws up deuces, says "my bad," and like just keeps on carrying on.
It's kind of like when you get up off the couch and then you start walking, you don't realize that your earbuds are dangling up. You're like,
Yeah,
oh shit, sorry.
It's like the old lady pulling out of the Walmart parking lot, like sorry, and she hits every single car in the
I
parking
think this
lot.
is officially just called the Navy teabag, right? That's like the balls of the vessel.
That's what it should have been
It's
called.
bad. Yeah, so this is first day out. So they meet up with the Iowa and the other escort ships. And then this is the next day, November 13th, 1943. They're in rough seas, a depth charge, which is a bomb that's designed. You drop it to a certain depth, it explodes,
Splashes.
and
Splashes.
it kills. It takes out submarines.
Sure.
One falls off.
Yeah.
Because that's what you want.
It falls
Like
the fuck
on the
off
deck?
The deck
Like on the deck or in the water.
falls into the water.
Okay.
Because it's a rough sea, I guess the jostling motion, whatever, it went off. Now they're in the middle of the U-boat occupied ocean.
Way to set
So
up a flag to say, "Here's where I am."
Everyone freaks the fuck out. Evasive maneuvers. Everyone's losing their minds.
They thought they got hit.
Until they thought that somebody was shooting a torpedo at their little group, so they all freak out. And then at some point, the captain of the porter, like, yeah, that's me. My bad.
Oh.
I didn't mean to. So
Are you talking
on
about these German? They were German U-boats.
the German U-boats are the ones that they're afraid of. They thought that a
Right.
German U-boat had fired a torpedo
Yeah,
at
okay,
them,
just
but
make sure we're on
really
the
it
same
was
page.
it was their depth charge. They accidentally. How do you accidentally drop a depth charge off the deck of
It's
a boat?
gravity. It's a gravity weapon. Is all it is. Like, did you guys not
Like
watch
somebody's got
U571?
somebody's
I
got to
know.
tie that shit down. That's all I'm saying. Like,
I know what
some
a
ratchet
depth-
straps or something.
I know what a depth charge is for sure. My only problem with that is the aftermath of after the scramble, watching some fucking hillbilly looking dude walking around deck with an inventory chart and going, I think we're missing one. Who is that guy that
Yeah,
found
because they
out?
didn't realize it was them at first. Like they had to go through and realize, oh, we're missing something. So that was us.
I thought we had 12.
Well,
John, you were supposed to have number 13. No, I started at 14. No, I started at 12. Motherfuckers.
so that all carries on, whatever. So the next day comes, and because of all this, the previous day, FDR decides that he wants to test out the Iowa and run some real drills in case somebody other than the idiots escorting them decides to fire at them. And
FDR
so
was awesome, by the way. You should
they
read
send
some
up
stuff
these weather balloons that the gun decks in the Iowa can use. They fire at them, targets, blah, blah, blah. Some of them, because of the wind, drifted over by the porter, and they kept shooting at them. I'm pretty sure it was payback. So they're shooting these balloons like directly over the USS Porter. And then FDR decides, you know what? You know what would be good? Let's test our maneuverability and what we would do if we got attacked by a torpedo. So he comes up with the brilliant idea. You know who would be good to try this with? The USS Porter. And what should our fake target be? The Iowa. Great plan. So the way they have these torpedo tubes, and if you take the primer out of the torpedo, they won't launch. And so that's what they were doing. They were dry firing torpedoes at the Iowa and seeing if they could do maneuver drills, stuff like that. They fire the first torpedo, sound goes off, everything's good. Fire the second torpedo, sound goes off, everything's good. Fire the third torpedo, and a very loud whoosh can be heard throughout the vessel. Somebody didn't pull the primer out of the third torpedo.
The torpedo tube was just
And they launched a
pressurized.
live torpedo at the USS Iowa that FDR and the Secretary of State were on. Missed them. They were able to maneuver out of the way, and it goes off about 300 yards off their stern, and the thing explodes. So this is only day 3 of their mission. They've already destroyed their sister ship, lost a depth charge, and accidentally blew up the president of the United States. All in a 3-day period.
That's when you say, all right, let's just turn around.
That again, also accompanied by the Benny Hill theme song.
Yes.
But wait, there's more.
Of course. Oh my God. I see why you
Because of
saved
all
this
this
one
was
for number
happening,
one.
they instantly send them like, you know what, fuck you guys, we're done. Go to Bermuda. We're gonna be an investigation. It's the first time in military history that an entire naval vessel was placed under arrest. They arrested everybody the minute they docked in Bermuda.
Captain was fired immediately.
So most of the officers, they actually ended up getting pretty light sentences. The torpedo man got the hardest sentence. He was sentenced to hard labor, but FDR ended up coming in on his behalf and like it was an accident, blah, blah, blah. And when the president you accidentally killed says to give the guy some slack, people are going to listen to him. So he got off pretty easy. And so what they did to the Porter to get them the hell out of the way, they sent them to the Aleutians in Alaska, tying it back up to one of our other topics during the Aleutian campaign when the Japanese were trying to take over. So they're bored because there's absolutely nothing happening in the Aleutians, and they're moored off one of the islands, and a drunken sailor decides he's going to give the deck guns a whirl.
Yep.
Are you serious?
Yep. So he hops on one of the deck guns, is just going to town. Unfortunately, one of the shells landed and exploded in the front yard of the base commander.
What the fuck? Is this boat just cursed or the ship?
I really think it is. This is why this is number one. I could have made half this list just with incidents from the USS Porter.
Oh my God.
So after all this done, things are heating up in the Pacific, and they say, you know what, we'll just send them to the Pacific. I really think somebody was like, they're probably going to die out there. Hopefully we can be done with them because we're getting our asses kicked in the Pacific at the time. Maybe somebody just like get rid of them for us. So
they are the bad news bears of the Navy.
They end up getting out there, and they served with some distinction in the Pacific warfare. They took down like 5 enemy planes. They sunk a couple ships. They also riddled one of their Allied ships with machine gun fire in the process. We're not going to get into that.
Yeah, I was going to say they shot down all these enemy planes. There's an asterisk and it says accidentally.
Yeah. So what finally did the USS Porter in? They couldn't have gone out in a normal way. So they're in this battle. There's kamikaze pilots coming in, bombing, and one of the kamikaze planes looks like they're coming towards them. So they open fire, and they end up shooting it down. Like, they've gotten pretty good at this point. They shoot it down. The plane hits the water, doesn't break apart, and continues its trajectory under the water, underneath the USS Porter, explodes, takes out the bottom of the destroyer, and she sinks with all hands.
Holy shit.
Oh, no.
Yep.
That's terrible.
After taking out the kamikaze fighter, it just didn't, because usually they break apart when they hit the water.
Of course,
It stayed together for the most part and just followed its trajectory under the water.
Aerodynamic equals hydrodynamic.
Blew out the bottom of the USS Porter, and that's all she wrote.
Damn. What a bittersweet ending? No,
Yeah.
just bitter ending. Yeah. No, there's no sweet to it.
It's like, do we have any tragedy loss? Well, we lost the Porter. But do we have any tragedy loss?
Getting into this, like, with the research was like opening a treasure chest, because the only thing I knew about the Porter was the almost blowing up the Iowa with the torpedo. The more I investigated is when I started finding all of these other incidents, which definitely, that's the reason it pushed it down to number one. It was higher up on the list, but when you've got 6+ severe incidents of negligence, you got to be number one on military.
This is such a movie in the waiting to be written, by the way.
It'll be a comedy, though. That's
Yeah.
I mean, torpedoes nowadays are much more sophisticated. Like, you can shut down
from Judd
torpedoes.
Apatow, the USS Porter.
Yeah. Like, torpedoes, you can shut down torpedoes, like, once it goes off. Like, you can shut them down completely because there is a wire that still connects them to the boat. And you can steer torpedoes. You can,
I didn't know that.
You don't just
that
fire it off and it just goes like
I know
a
that we've
bullet.
got wire-guided missiles in the Army, but I didn't know they had the same technology
Yeah.
for
Oh, yeah,
torpedoes.
tow missiles.
You can
right?
shut them
Yeah.
down and you can steer them away.
I had no clue about that.
I didn't know about that.
Can you
either.
reel them back in?
Chances are
know.
you probably don't want to.
Yeah, once it goes and it's like armed, you don't want that near your boat. Actually, they're also sophisticated too. If they do a 180 turn, they shut down.
Huh.
So because they
So
are
it can't come
guided,
back on itself.
exactly. Yeah, so it can't blow itself up.
Interesting.
That's probably smart. I mean, we can't make sure all the welds are good, but we can make sure that it doesn't do a U-turn on us.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is why didn't they have like training torpedoes in there?
I don't know. I don't know from the research I did, because I thought the same thing. Like they would have dummy torpedoes. That just
Yeah, and you
it
usually
makes
carry
sense.
some
For the
with
same
you.
reason that the anchor wasn't all the way up. Someone didn't do their
Because it's
job.
the USS Porter. Like that's really the only explanation I could find, is because this ship's fucking cursed.
Do you remember how Jacob started this list? Doesn't everybody have a job for something? So that means somebody fucked up at all of these different stages along the way of this vessel's life, basically.
I don't know how much space they had, so I don't know anything about the ship or anything. So.
Yeah, I didn't. I just know it was a destroyer, which is, I mean, it's a pretty big.
It was
pretty
pretty
big
wartime
boat,
too,
but-
so wartime. This is the 40s.
You got away with a lot of shit.
that's
you
true.
could do multiple shows just on World War II mishaps, because we were trying to put out this technology and do all these things so fast that nothing was getting checked on.
Well,
Nothing was
didn't we?
happening.
We're the same country that started a war by accident, or not by accident, but just by ineptitude.
Yeah.
Spanish-American War started when the USS Maine blew up, because we swore that Spain had
remember
blown
the
it
Maine.
up, and it was the powder kegs inside had blown up, and we ended up starting a war and getting a hold of 3 countries that we don't give a damn about anymore.
We invaded Canada over some bullshit. A lot of people don't know that. We got our asses kicked.
We'll save that for another Twisted 10.
Yeah.
I want to know about that too. That, by the way,
Great
was
list.
educational, historical, and incredibly entertaining.
Yes.
I'm a big buff for especially wartime type shit like that.
Yeah, that's my thing. I love it.
That was an awesome.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed
You
it.
took this so seriously. I am so impressed. You really did your homework. You prepped your list well. You had the facts. You had the answers.
Great storytelling too.
Yeah,
so
fantastic storyteller. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was nervous coming into it because my persona on Burn It Down doesn't necessarily preclude to an intelligent, well thought out top 10 list.
Now everybody knows your secret.
Damn it.
They're gonna think that we replaced you with somebody that sounds like you.
I'm not just a womanizing river rat, I promise.
That list
Not
list was,
just.
Yeah, I didn't deny that altogether.
that list was so good. That's going to Mr. Dan Cummins as a special listen because he loves history kind of shit like that.
That's awesome.
And he's like, hey, anytime you guys get one of those really cool history podcasts for Twisted 10, let me know. So I'm gonna send him an email on that one. Say, hey, you got to listen to this one. It was really fucking cool.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity because I love podcasting. I love what I do on the Burn It Down show. I love all the comedy podcasts. But like stuff like this is me. This is what I love to do. I'm a history buff. So like I'm the research king. All my friends laugh at me because I'm full of useless knowledge. So like this was a perfect opportunity for me to actually put it to a purpose.
Oh, you fucking destroyed that list, man. You owned it. We'll definitely have you back again for another list for 2 reasons. Number one, you're a good storyteller and you do your research really well. But number 2, I mean, let's be honest, it saves us from another week of having to do the same research. So.
Yeah, I've been listening back, and every week goes, yeah, it's been a while since we've done one. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's been like 6 months since you guys have.
Yeah.
One. I think the last one might have been his.
Jay did one and Tach has
I
done
did
one
a serial
recently.
killer one recently. So.
I listened to the serial killer one. I've listened to the.
Yeah, mine was the last one was the
They
top
Lied
10.
to You.
Yeah, movies based on true stories.
I
on
think
IMDb.
it's been about a year since I've done one.
Yeah, because I did one in there somewhere, maybe music related again. I don't remember. But yeah, that's kind of the thing that we've got going for us now. Make it popular by other people doing it. It's working, so we're sticking to it.
And there is a little twist to this one.
Oh, nice.
Oh boy.
It's it's vaguely twisty. This is hard
all right.
with this subject, but one of these dodos ended up writing the greatest or the best-selling novel of the century.
Of the century?
Of the century.
Stop.
Movies.
20th century, though, not 21st, so not after
Of the
2000.
20th century, yeah. The top-selling novel of the 20th century. Like they've created movies recently and in the past based on it. Plays.
Wizard of Oz.
L. Ron Hubbard.
This is part of all that.
Dianetics.
The person who actually did it was General Lew Wallace, the guy that
General
got
Wallace.
lost and couldn't figure out where the hell he was going.
Yeah.
After he lost out on his promising career, he became an author. And he ended up writing the very famous novel Ben-Hur.
Stop it.
Swear to God.
No
He
shit.
wrote Ben-Hur that went on. The only thing that came out, the thing that like knocked it off the top was when Gone with the Wind came out. Was the only other thing that at the time period that
Wow.
sold more copies.
Damn.
And yeah, it became one of the best selling. I mean, everyone knows Ben-Hur, the movies.
Yeah,
the,
How ironic that a man who went in a full circle wrote a book about men in chariots going in full circles.
Yeah. It's just history repeating itself. Man. Yeah, when I read that, I couldn't believe, because he's such an idiot. He's so stupid, but he ends up writing.
But he can rap real pretty.
All right. Well, that was an awesome list. We appreciate it. Get some plugs out of the way. What do you want to plug?
Burn It Down Show, number one. Those guys have given me the opportunity to live the degenerate lifestyle that I have. And I love to podcast. I love to talk. I love to sit around. And they're the first ones that really allowed me to come in, be a part of it.
Nice.
And I love everything those guys do. We talk a lot of shit, but at the end of the day, and just our community as a whole, the Brevard County podcast community, I got to give a shout out to all y'all. You guys, Adjust the Mic, Burn It Down. Is it 1K away local?
They're Orlando, Maitland area.
Oh, well, fuck you guys then.
Get them.
Everybody in Brevard, it's just, and I know there's a big community in Central Florida itself, but the Brevard community just seems to be just very tight-knit. Like we were talking about earlier,
Absolutely.
just Brevard in itself. We support each other. We support local. Whether it's our podcast, our beer, our charities.
Yep.
There's just something about the city of Brevard that just makes it easier to do what we do. So I just got to give a shout out to the whole group. And then the podcast mafia, y'all are all right.
Yeah, Podcast Mafia is cool. Brevard, we just started, I say we, Scott with Adjust the Mic just started a group on Facebook for podcast, Brevard County Podcast.
Love you, Scotty.
He calls it Brevard County Podcast Network. It's not really a network. It's just a group of people
Yeah,
on
the
Facebook.
Facebook group.
Yeah. But we've got some collaborative ideas for all the different Brevard County shows. Jay's got a show called Pops On down in Palm Bay that he does with Raul with his buddy.
Nice.
Our friend Ray Brito has a podcast that he does called Gallows Humor. Our boy Ron runs a Dolphins podcast called The Fins Broadcast. Adam Sakura and Jake Jake Salter run the Smoke Break talk show. Yeah, Brevard County's got a lot more podcasts than we think of. I know I missed a few of them. If I missed you guys, sorry. Forgot about you. But yeah, Jay, Flo, Dabs, K, Computer. And,
I love all of them.
Yeah, they're good folks. Go check if for our listeners who haven't heard the Burn It Down show, be sure to go check it out. They have an amazing ability to make it sound like they don't give a fuck, but they really do. You know what I mean?
We've definitely, like, I'm not a full-time member on the show. I come in, I guest host. I'm there a lot for them when some people can't come in. But it's just, we've perfected the shit show.
Yeah.
Which it comes across as it's a complete shit show. We have no idea what the fuck we're doing, but somehow we make it work. And honestly,
It's like jazz.
that comes down to Jason and Kenny's Dabs. Like, their drive is out of control. I've never seen people hustle like these motherfuckers. Like, they don't let anything get them down. It's crazy how they keep it going.
I would tell you, I listened to the Living Room series that you guys just recorded.
Part 4, yeah, Melodic Descent.
With Melodic Descent. I listened to that entire thing front to back twice because it was so good. It was great music. There's something weird, though. Maybe it was the mics setup or the arrangement in the Living Room series, but every time a really cool song would come on, all I would hear in the background is, yeah, go! From Jason.
And people wonder why he couldn't be on the show on Saturdays, because he was screaming nonsense. He does that during every time we do one of those Living Room series shows. He just yells the entire time.
Jay Flo, I love you, buddy. I thought it was hilarious. Made me laugh every time I heard you on mic. All right. Anything else you want to plug? Anything else you want to send our listeners to?
Not really. I'm just, lonely, degenerate river pirate. Don't have a whole lot going on.
Start prepping your second list because you brought a hell of a good one tonight. So
I'm excited. I love doing this. Thank you guys so much.
Cool deal. Cool. All right, let's get out of here. So check us out on Facebook, obviously facebook.com/thetwisted10. Listen to our interview over on Living Podcariously this week. We interviewed Keith with the Children's Hunger Project. And our company, the company that Tach and all of us own that runs Living Podcarious and the Twisted 10 are two shows, might have paid back the community a little bit this week. So go check that out. Listen to the interview. Go check out the Children's Hunger Project as well. How can they find us elsewhere, Tach?
They can find us on Twitter at The Twisted 10. You can also follow us on Instagram as well, also The Twisted 10. And Facebook.
Tuesdays on Podcast Radio Network.
That's right. Tuesdays on
YouTube as well.
Jay, where are you going to be?
You guys can catch me August 24th, 25th, and 26th hosting again at Gregory's Comedy Club. I have literally been there every other week for the past month and a half.
Dude, that's awesome.
So that's been cool. Come see me, hang out with us, come say hey. And then also on September 3rd, you can find me yelling at my laptop while I auto-draft for my NFL Fantasy League.
Nice. Should have joined my league this year.
I'm already on 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in so many leagues. It's ridiculous.
I'm on 4. 2 of them involve money. It's not happening.
I'm doing 2 this year.
Yay,
Two
sports.
You're doing 2?
Yeah. One
I'm
online,
3.
though.
I dropped 2 from last
much is
season, so I'm
that?
just 3 now.
$60. It's not. No, I don't.
Again?
I don't gamble real money. Come on, wink, wink. I don't gamble real money. All right,
Never.
Andrea, where can our listeners come and find you?
I'm too tired to even come up with something clever.
For where you work?
Yeah.
All right.
Brent Allen Salon is all just a ploy, folks. If anybody's actually gone looking for Andrea Joy.
You can find it on the ball earth.
Nice.
She's salty. All right. You guys ready to get out of here?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, on behalf of Living Pod Curiously, I'm Adam.
I'm Tach.
I'm Andrea Joy.
No, I'm Jay Alvarez.
And over to our guest for the evening,
I'm baking.
Bacon, a.k.a. Jacob from the Burden Down. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to us. Check us out again next week. Have a good one.